about thermal stressors. As we've already discussed the role of ecological stressors in our previous sessions, and how different ecological stresses, be it in terms of thermal stresses, altitude related stress, or infectious disease exposures, or things like that, they are impacting on your physiological changes. We are adapting to certain behavioral changes, right? So that background has already been given to you. So today we'll be specifically talking about heat and cold stresses. Okay. So in previous class also, I think I started with heat stress. What basically is understood as heat stress is basically the exposure to high temperature, high or extremely high and humid temperature. So when any environment that is external to us or even internal to us, but essentially here we'll be talking about the external environment. When the external environment, in terms of their temperature or the radiant temperature, or in terms of humidity or the speed or the quality of wind, etc., every component of that external environment, or if at all we talk of internal environment, internal heat production in terms of physical activity being done, dietary intake, or the pattern of clothing that we are adhering to at the given point of time. So all of these are creating a sort of, are acting as a stressor for our body, for our core temperature, and therefore there is a response to that form of stimuli in form of heat stress within our body, right? So it all of these external as well as internal heat pressures or heat stressors, they interact to produce a tendency for the body temperature to rise, right? So understand heat stress as in, heat stress as being response of your body to a certain given environment, be it in terms of production of energy from within your body by doing exercise, let's say, or in terms of very high temperatures as we can see in Delhi. So both the ways there is certain heat or certain energy being generated in response to what we are seeing externally and internally. So that is what is understood as heat stress. Heat stressors are different things, like we are already clear, right, with the difference between stressor and stress. So here we are talking about the response that is coming from within the body in terms of increased body temperature. Okay. What happens then when a body is increasing? We are looking for regulation of our temperature. Otherwise, if we go to an extreme, our body organs would fail, right? Or if we go to the other extreme, like in the cold stress, there will be lack of oxygen or lack of energy supply to every single tissue of our body, and therefore they will also fail down, they will rupture down. So that mechanism is understood as thermoregulation. Now if we talk in terms of heat stress or say high temperatures, how our body is going to regulate the temperature is in form of losing out the heat. But in terms of cold temperature, if we say, our body will be tend to produce more heat, so that not all the tissues which are there in the extremities where which are away located from the cardiac muscles or cardiac vessels, so they should not rupture down first, right? So therefore both the stresses have different responses from our body. We've already discussed a lot of this in the previous session also. And in the graph, in the picture that we discussed in the previous session, how the central nervous system is basically regulating the temperature across different body parts, right? So therefore central nervous system directs body's attempts to regulate different temperature as a response to the stress by rerouting their circulation as well as the sweating mechanisms, especially in terms of heat related stress. Circulating as in, we'll be talking about vasodilation, and then sweating is another mechanism that is understood in terms of heat stress. Now we know our body is divided into two phases, like in previous session also we discussed, core is one and extremities is one. Most of the heat production is basically at the core, and most of the heat loss is basically from your extremities. Extremities matlab haath aur pair, your limbs, right? Now the heat produced in the core, basically it gets transmitted throughout the body, when we are talking about the cold stresses, your cardiac muscles are basically constantly pumping oxygen so that not every single cell, because it is tough, the organs which are located away from your heart are they are most exposed in the cold stresses, so they are likely to die first or likely to rupture first than the muscles or the tissues which are located near your heart, right? So therefore, to transmit that heat which is being produced from within your core to throughout your body is the mechanism that is observed during your exposure to cold stresses. Whereas when we are in the hot regions, your extremities, they play a major role जहाँ से your heat is being released out, because your environment is exerting the pressure of hot temperature, and therefore your core is undergoing a different mechanism. Direct heating from within the core cannot happen during the heat stress. Direct heat loss from the core cannot happen. The direct heat loss that we observe is from your extremities or from your peripheral, like your skins or your sweat glands. Okay, so that is how it is understood in a basic term. Now we have already discussed there are 4 different mechanisms how we lose out the heat from our body: radiation, conduction, convection, and evaporation. In general term, if we had to say, like in a simplistic term, evaporation becomes a part of the mechanism of sweating that we say it in a technical term. And when we talk in specifically about heat stresses, there are 2 different mechanisms that we have to understand. One is vasodilation and one is sweating. During heat stress, when the external temperature is higher than the body temperature, there is a sort of heat load on the individual which rises up. What is this heat load? It is understood as a heat energy which is required to be extracted from space in order to maintain the temperature within an appropriate range. Okay, so heat energy wherein we are trying to get back our or say, there's a lot of disturbance today. Okay, when your core temperature is not able to match up with your external temperature in a simplistic term, then if your body is able to extract sort of energy from that external environment, and therefore that heat within your core is again rising, the temperature of your core is again rising with respect to your external environment, that is a situation where you understand it as heat load. Okay. In excess stress, there is an increased cardiac output. Subsequently, the lumen of the blood vessels, they become widened, and therefore they allow more and more blood flow to pass through it. So more and more amount of heat, it could be released from your core, wherein your blood is being pumped, to different extremities, and from different extremities directly to the environment, right? So far clear this mechanism, because this is a very simplistic understanding of vasodilation. आपका cardiac output is being your heart is pumping out blood like anything, like it gets rapid, then it is being reaching out to your extremities, then from your extremities through your sweat glands it is releasing out to your environment. Clear? This physiological response is called as vasodilation. Dilation मतलब there are 2 mechanisms, dilation and contraction. Dilation मतलब वो अपनी जो मोटर से हमारी जो वेसल्स हैं, दे गेट वाइडनड अप, दे गेट ओपनड अप. तो जो चैनल है, मतलब जैसे एक ट्यूब का सेंटर का पोर्शन अगर हम बोलें, तो जैसे कोई पाइप होता है, पाइप का जो अगर कोर पोर्शन है जहाँ से पानी फ्लो करेगा, अगर वो वाइडन अप हो जाता है, दैट मैकेनिज्म इज कॉल्ड एज डायलेशन. इट गेट्स वाइडन अप, right? Similarly, on the other hand, when we talk about contraction, your muscles are contracting, your that lumen part of your blood vessels is contracting, therefore that channel from which the energy has to be released or has to be passed to different organs gets narrowed down. Okay, that space gets lessened up. So that is the mechanism. ठीक है, तो this is about vasodilation. Now the second mechanism is sweating. With the increasing cardiovascular strain, there is an increasing pressure on the blood which is being passed through the vessels, right? In this case, the strain and the heat load persist. Like as I told, agar your core temperature is able to come to the external temperature, that regulation is okay, fine within your core, pumping out a lot of blood or a lot of heat to your extremities, and then you are able to stabilize it, then fine, you will not be seeing sweating. But what happens is, external temperature cannot be really controlled, right? It is going to exert pressure constantly, so that strain, that heat load is constantly being persisted, and therefore your core is constantly pumping out energy to your extremities. That is the mechanism. And from your extremities, therefore further evaporation takes place of that heat energy, right? That mechanism of sweating from your eccrine or the sweat glands which are present on your body surfaces, this helps in the release of extra heat from your body. Now, rate of the sweating depends on different factors. Like, first we say the amount of sweat glands activated over your surface area, their structure, their functions, all of these, their morphology, their physiology again matters in terms of how the sweat is being released. For all the people, definitely you do not see the similar pattern of sweating. Like for instance, people who are obese versus people who are lean, whom do you think heat loss or sweating generally takes place more? I'm pretty sure for obese people, they are more, you see that visible sweating within the obese people more, right? Why so? Because their physiology, their metabolism is different from a lean person. From a lean person, basically, again, they are at a higher risk in the cold stress. That is a different context. But yeah, so that matters. In obese, you see a lot of heat or sweating being taking place as compared to a lean person. Now, what is this? Okay, this was an example that I wanted to mention. For instance, a person who is living within the hotter climate versus a person living within a let's say a humid climate or a colder climate, that activation of sweat glands again varies. So for a hotter climate, the person would be having more extra activated sweat glands as compared to the non-natives, right? That is pretty much clear. The mechanism of sweating, okay, it is not visible. What did I write? The mechanism of sweating is also it's again, it's a method of cooling procedure, right? For instance, even after your workout, if you touch your body parts, they are like cooler because that surface area has released a lot of heat out of its body, out of your body, out of that surface, and therefore that area becomes cooler because now the temperature gradient is coming back to the core temperature. Getting my point? Therefore, it has to be cooler down as compared to when it was sweating or when it was working out a lot. So therefore, sweating becomes a mechanism of cooling down your body. But in humid conditions, again, water vapor content is already high in the atmosphere. Therefore, you will be able to sweat, no doubt about it, but evaporation won't take place. That becomes ineffective, and therefore cooling mechanism becomes ineffective in terms of humid conditions. Sweating will be there, but the maintenance of core temperature by sweating and further evaporation, and therefore providing a cooling to your body, will not happen. Okay. Also, we observe that urine content reduces as we are more and more exposed to the heat stresses, right? Now, again, the response to the heat stress is not uniform. For instance, if I talk about me being a Delhiite and then people from a colder climate who are not residing in a Delhi sort of climate, which is extreme heat, extreme like 48 degrees Celsius in June. So if they visit Delhi in summers, they would be really discomforted, right? Instead, if I being exposed to the same external environment, same heat stress, I won't be discomforted because I have adapted physiologically to that particular external environment. For me, that strain is normal. For me, my physiology, as in my core, my cardiac output would be knowing that okay, this is the exposure we are already aware of, we have to do the pumping, we have to do lot of heat being released out of your body. That mechanism is already aware about that external stress, so it will not be having those strains as compared to a person who has never visited Delhi in summers, right? So that plasticity, as we have already discussed, the phenotypic, the physiological plasticity varies for every person, and therefore that adaptation or that physiological response will again vary for people who are living in the in a given stress versus who are not living in the given stress. Moreover, the process of heat loss is different due to different morphology. As we already talked, differences in body size, differences in body composition, obese people versus lean people, short statured versus long statured, they have a different morphology, and therefore their process of heat loss again varies, because firstly their metabolism, second their extremities ka length being as in the surface area being exposed to the that environment, so that heat loss could easily happen, right? Plus it is having a direct relationship with the weight of individuals. So more is the weight, more is the heat loss, as in more is the process of heat loss, more is the sweating being observed. Now more is the skin surface. For instance, in the African communities, you see people are long statured, they have longer extremities, so more is the surface area, their heat exchange happens more easily, and therefore the tolerance level to a given strain or given stressor is therefore higher for those communities who are having like more surface area. In extreme situations, we have already discussed hyperthermia. To extreme situations, heat stress basically leads to your heart strokes, and in one of the research I found that in US more people have died because of heat waves rather than cold. Why so? Because see, in cold we have sort of mechanism where we can regulate at least our body temperature, we can behaviorally adapt to it, we can cover our body, we can thermoregulate externally like ourselves. But in heat, that mechanism has to be done by your own body, so you cannot help it out. If you are exposed to a heat wave, if your body is not regulating that, your heat loss is not happening, your physiology is not responding to it, you cannot help it out. Getting the point? Isliye what happens is, most of the communities we study their dietary intake also, because people have certain diet which helps them maintaining a good physiology. Okay, for instance, even in our community, if we say during, in Haryana specifically, this is the saying, if in, because here we have the exposure to loo in summers, extreme summers, so you are said that in your lunch you should have a raw onion, which should not be cut using a knife. You should have it raw, not even fried one, just the raw onion. So that helps in preventing you from the exposure to loo or from the exposure to heat waves. So therefore that dietary intake or few native diets again become important to understand when we're talking about their physiological responses, because that again helps, right? Your metabolism, your physiology is again reflected by your nutrition or your pattern of diet. Okay. So apart from that, there are behavioral changes, as I talked. You do a proper clothing with respect to certain heat related environment. You do not wear woolens, right? Then there is structure of house, there is a building material that we use that keeps the internal temperature normal, it does not heatens up fast. Then there are food habits we discussed. Then physical activity, what people do is they do not go out in the sun so that they are not exposed to heat waves, right? So that physical activity or physical involvement in some works, or they are reduced during the daytime. So these are certain behavioral changes that we do to avoid heat stress exposures. Okay, so this was about heat stress.